Okay, so do we have any questions for our speakers?
The question that's gnawing at me is one about hulled barley. In my period, which is early modern, the main kind of barley grown was the one spelt B-E-R-E, which Orkney farmers and historians pronounced beer, but I've gathered that archaeologists pronounce it bear, like the animal. The barley described as B-E-R-E in the 16th and 17th centuries was 4 to 6 row barley. Modern barley has 12 rows. What's this hulled barley that you talk about? And you seem to find barley unqualified, other kinds of barley in the same place. I thought it was a simple evolutionary perspective from the rougher, earlier kind to the modern kind. So where does hulled barley and this other barley that you're finding actually fit? I know it's hard to ask this question of professional archaeologists because they're fixed on what they find, but I want more of a longer-term perspective on what barley is. And it does make beer, and it does make bread, and it's the second most valuable crop after wheat. In the 1580s, it was producing a 4-fold yield of the seed planted, which was much better than oats, much better than peas and other crops, and on the same kind of quantities produced as wheat in Mid-Lothian. It's my location. Right.
Thank you. Can I pass that to Stuart and Dom, maybe to...
That is a really excellent point, and I do feel you probably know you probably know a lot more about this than I do at this point. As you say, as a professional, it's a very much a case of we found it, we know what it is, we know the crop we can grow at the time, but beyond that, I have nothing else for you, sorry. You don't have an answer? No. I'll try and find an answer. Thank you, please.
One quick answer. When they've said just barley, it just probably means it's unidentified. It's just generic barley. We can't identify it down. So that's when they've just put barley. Okay. It's just one of the generics. From the little I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, hulled barley means it's partially processed. So that's the differentiation. It's gone through kind of threshing, it's hulled. So.
Any other questions? Up there.
Hi. In several of these talks, we've been shown diagrams of finds, objects, and you show the top, the middle, and then the profile, which has been filled in. I wondered how you created those diagrams. They don't look as though they're hand-drawn. I wondered if there was some software or whether it was done by scanning the object. Could you inform me?
It's a combination of probably a lot of things. Most of them, the artifacts are generally hand-drawn and then digitised.
Right.
At that stage.
Yeah.
You'll find a lot of, it depends on the specialisation. If you go into sort of more things I do, pottery, we're looking more at photographs now as well, and with just an outline. So
right.
There's no fixed way of doing it, basically.
Right. I wondered if there was a new way that had evolved.
I think it's more about how you, a lot of these were published online, so it's how it's been published will dictate the form you see.
Yeah, thank you.
Questions here? Just there.
There? Oh, yeah.
Thank you. My question's for Helen and John. Helen pointed out the commendable way in which everyone is going to be asked to address the existing questions that you're putting into the research framework. And John specified that in future it would be nice to develop those questions and obviously come up with new and more interesting ones potentially, who knows. But I just wonder what the future process was to enable that development of the sort of interrogative aspect of the research framework.
Yeah, so there's a few things. The original scarf was always meant to be updatable, but in some ways the website was maybe sort of before its time. So we always had an opportunity for people to comment on the website through a sort of wiki comment sort of system, but we had very little take-up of people actually adding their comments. That is still there. We encourage anybody to comment at any time by going to the page. At the bottom of each page, you will find a comment box where you can fill in, and that will come direct to us, and then we can either add information, we can speak to the local archaeologists or specialists and add things. We can add new questions at any time. We don't want these to be static. Again, the idea what we want to do is sort of review things on a periodic basis within the SCARF team. So again, come to us. These sort of conferences here are sort of perfect for highlighting the latest research, what questions might have been answered, and what the next step of questions are going to be in the future. So if we answer one, you always end up posing probably 10 more. So we are able to do that. So get in touch with us. But also the Oasis system, the way that is meant to be working, and hopefully will be working soon, is that actually when people fill in these forms on Oasis and they comment on a research question, so we have found, I don't know, a new part, a new excavation or new geophysics related to the Antonine Wall, that will then come direct to us as a digital file and will go directly under the question. So we can actually see when work and link to new work that is actually happening to answer the question. And there will be a link to the ADS database, which is where a lot of the grey literature reports go to and the post-excavation reports go to. So this will all become much more of an automatic process. We're getting there slowly, as anything. Imagine in 10 years' time, with AI and things, this will probably all be working swimmingly. So at the moment it's work in progress, and certainly the English Oasis is maybe a year ahead of where we are at the moment. But this should all start to link up both by anybody being able to comment at any point or get in touch with us, or through the technological way of being able to update questions and research.
Thanks.
Please do,
Ooh, can you hear me? Yeah. So Helen was to talk about Oasis, and you saw on the slides where she was showing where you tick about the different research frameworks that your work might relate to. Now, if you can't find your question there, if you think it might actually be a new question, you can also add in an option that's just you tick other comments, and then you can type in a new question as well, or new work that you think you've got results or information on. So that's an additional way via Oasis that you can add in about new research questions and information that we may not currently have in any of the research frameworks. So hopefully that makes sense as well. So yeah, go forth and discover.
And Helena and Archaeology Scotland have been doing training sessions on Oasis as well. So for anybody who's not familiar with it or never used it before, look at, I think, Archaeology Scotland website specifically, and there will be more training courses about it in future as well.
Okay. Any more questions? Down here. Where's our...
I wasn't familiar with the word caryopsis that you used. Does it refer to burnt corn or what? And the second question, Dunsappi obviously indicates there's a fort there, whatever the Sappi bit means, whether it's a ruined fort. Does the word Birdie House give any clue?
I'm not particularly familiar with the etymology of Birdie House. However, there is an article in the Scotsman that suggests that the name potentially comes from the word Bordeaux and relates to where the king's wine cellar was, which was French wine in the store there. Whether that answers your question, I'm not entirely sure, and I do believe there could be an earlier origin that we're just not aware of.
Thank you. And caryopsis or what?
Yeah, oh, I'm very sorry. This is slightly outside my area. This is all post-excavation. Can any from post-ex please give me a hand?
It's just a grain.
Just a grain. Thank you.
Question at the top there.
Sorry, you come up the stairs. With the Lee Burnhead platforms,
yeah, how many were there platforms that you? How many platforms were there that you didn't dig, and also what evidence were you getting of the actual structure? You know, what are the walls? Are they turf walls and stone walls, or are they, you know, you getting stake holes, that kind of thing?
So there was one additional platform to the north of the two that we dug. As I understand, that wasn't covered by trees, and as the primary objective of the project was to assess these platforms for damage, we just didn't go near it. As for structures, as far as the internal walls go, there was no real evidence. I think there was some turf banking that may have been the walls, but it was not terribly clear. Internally, we did get one internal gully. There was no stake holes that were visible, but we did get some wattling, or some fired clay that may have been from wattle and daub. So I assume probably a combination, if I'm being honest, of maybe a turf outer wall and then obviously internally wattle and daub, because screens are partitions.
Next question. Up over here.
Here?
This one.
Yes.
Hello. Hi, my question is for John, I guess. When we're talking about the research aims, in what we find in more England WSI's regions, written schemes of investigation, we always include specific research questions. This hasn't been seen to date as much in Scotland in written schemes of investigation for developer-led archaeological works. So my question is, I guess, is this going to be something that you start to ask for now that we have more of a platform for finding those questions a lot easier?
Yes. No,
excellent.
These will help, and certainly, personally, I mean, when every excavation we put a condition on has a basic research question in the first place. Should say that we're not asking people to go out and just do things. So we have basically most of our responses. We'll have a basic one, why we think you should be there, but a lot of these detailed questions will come through. It should be thought in your work when you do it, but certainly would, I would say, very much drive post-excavation work as well. That's my personal take on it. It'll be slightly different, but I mean, so we have a general why go through planning. So when you think about the site, we can have a discussion, put them in. But yeah, think about why you're there, he says. We're giving you the basics, but you know, certainly drive post-excavation. I personally think may drive it. Sorry, Andy, do you want to?
Just to kind of add to that, you will be made to do it. It'll be quite sporadic until these come online, but we've worked out all the kind of legal ramifications with planning, so it'll become a legal requirement for commercial folk to do it. That's the bottom line. That's going to be right across Scotland, coming online as and when the regional research frameworks come on. The reason for the delay is SCARF wasn't usable really in that way. As Helen said, it's a fantastic baseline, but in terms of commercial work, we've just not been able to use it, extract the data easily. So, yes, as John says.
Any more questions? No? Everyone keen for lunch? Well, join with me in thanking this morning's speakers.